Real love, now I see you. Yeah, you know I do, to make it through the times we had. I see it now, I see it now. Real love, now I break through to show to you that I'm more good than I am bad. I work it out, I work it out. And I'll be somewhere that you need me, and I'll be holding my breath, waiting for you to show. Times we had, I see it now, I see it now. Real love, now I break through to show to you that I'm more good than I am bad. I work it out, I work it out. And I'll be somewhere that you need me, and I'll be holding my breath, waiting for you to show.
Watching the ocean with you, baby, up with a slow motion crew. And we up in our clouds when people change, but not us. And we just chillin', kicking it, kissed by the sun. Could be soaked to the skin in the mall soon. I know she got the good vibes when seasons change, but we're the same. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. And I'll be running, possessed by a low, low voodoo. Fired up like a wolf on a full moon. And we're stuck in a la la land. The tides will turn without us. And I'll be killing time like I might be a cartoon. Take it in real life like haiku. I know we got the good vibes when pieces fall right into place. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, 'cause you got me holding, holding. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. Cause you got me holding. Play me like a baby. this guitar. Simmer down and mess me up. Tripping like I'm Jimmy at Woodstock. And I drive me around in your red Ford. Shivers down my spinal cord. Oh, 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 oh. 'Cause you got me holding, holding. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word.
What about now, guys? Should be able to hear the sound. I know. It'll catch up, guys. Mic's on mute. No, it wasn't on mute. For some reason, can't figure it out. I don't change the settings on my OBS, and every once in a while, it's like the default setting changes. There it is. So is it robotic right now? Is there like an echo, or is this the clean sound that it should be sounding like? Clean sound that it should be sounding like. You know, sometimes, guys, when you're watching me, it has like an echo. Okay, it's perfect. Cool. All right. So sound is good. Yeah, I don't know what the hell goes on with that. Like, I don't change anything on OBS. I literally turn on OBS, turn it off. Settings stay the same with everything else. The you know, the scene switching, all the little logo things, nothing changes. And then sometimes the sound changes. And I didn't even, it's like there's a ghost in the machine. So let's see what the stream health looks like. Decent amount of people in here. Trying to obviously build this BlockRoots YouTube family. And, you know, we appreciate all the likes we can get. So for those of you that are new, please hit the subscribe button, which should be right around here somewhere. I know that on my screen it appears like a watermark over my face, but I know that on your screen it should be somewhere tucked into the corner around my shoulder. So if you can hit the watermark and go ahead and subscribe. We do these streams 3 days a week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I want to do more, right? I want to be able to fit in more because I think that there are times when, you know, it'll be a, we'll just say that there are the times when I don't have anything to do because my wife is busy and, you know, I want to get online and talk to you guys. Yeah, so we'll try to fit in some more streams, but right now it's consistently on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 17 UTC. And yeah, so if we could get those likes up, we're trying to grow our YouTube presence, and you know how YouTube works, right? So the like to viewer ratio right now needs some improvement. So on behalf of myself, Kenner and Clark, you know me on Twitter as Kenner and Clark. My name is Ryan. And my partner, Josh Rager. We just want to thank you guys for tuning into the BlockRoots stream. We have a lot of people that consistently tune in, and we appreciate all of you, right? So we appreciate every single one of our followers. We're going to be doing a giveaway in this stream. Should be something that hopefully everyone is familiar with. It'll be a little bit of trivia. And the first person to answer it will win $100 in Bitcoin. Okay. All right, so let me see who's here. So connected MCM, reminder set, up or down, Ryan? Yeah. Yeah, I'm hedged right now. I'm hedged right now, unfortunately, and we'll go over that in a second. Not that it's not unfortunate that I'm hedged. It's unfortunate the way that I have to do certain things. I'll get into that in a second. So before we get all segued, because we know how I could do that. So math, what's going on? So we got Saab, David, Keld, Carlos Cifuentes. What's going on, buddy? Jake, what's up, Ryan? What a weekend of crypto. Yeah, what a weekend. I mean, it's been kind of it hasn't been anything to really write home about. It's been kind of choppy, and I think that we're getting to a point where hedging is not a bad idea. LP, what's going on? VLX, good morning. Bade and Pascal, what's going on, buddy? All right, Neto Peter. All right, good evening from the side of the continent, Africa. All right, good evening. Dave, what's going on, buddy? Hi, all right. Okay, Sigmar. I'm not saying hi as in hi, but hi, you wrote morning, guys. Sigmar, what's going on? Alex. All right. Seeing the same name. Sound is good. Sounding sexy. Okay, all right. Have you loud and clear. Okay, not cool that you have a bear on your mug. You know, that's awesome that you could see that. Yeah, I've gone over this before. My wife is, she is a mug connoisseur. And I absolutely happen to love bears. Ever since I was a kid, this is like a childhood thing. I've always loved bears. And I just think they're fascinating creatures. So she picks me up things when she's out that are bear related. And if you guys go back all the way to the end of 2017, one thing that I was doing publicly was I was taking pictures on Twitter. At the time, I wasn't completely doxxed. I was taking pictures of my Twitter photo was a picture of my outline of my face. At the time, it was a shaved head. I had a crew cut. And all you could see was me in a blazer with a mug in front of my face. And the mug said, "Don't poke the bear," or "Don't wake the bear." And it was a mug that has since hit the floor. And yeah, we couldn't put that one back together. But yeah, I am rocking a mug right now. Rocking a mug. I am drinking out of a bear mug right now. Yeah, we got the coffee. So Octavian, all right, Milleranga, all right, and Beach Ball, B-Town, what's up? Mute, how you doing, buddy? Mute. I can't seem to get it because, you know, I'm sure at some point I say it correctly, but I don't have, there's too much of a lag between the, and if you came on a Zoom session, that would be helpful. Too much of a lag between the, me asking how to pronounce it and you saying yes. So whenever I pronounce it correctly, out of the 3 different ways that I say it, and you say, "Oh, that was the one," I think you've done that before, and I have no idea which one you're talking about. So, Florian, what's up, man? Florian, what's going on? All right, so we're going to go over a few things in the stream, and I said that it's unfortunate that I hedged. It's not unfortunate that I hedged. I am right now, I don't have my, so one of my larger trading accounts that I am hedging my entire portfolio with, I have to turn on my VPN to get onto that account. Won't say why. Obviously, everyone knows why. And I turn my VPN off for the stream. For some reason, again, my internet the last 2 days, I know there's been a really crazy windstorm, so that kind of makes sense, but it's been choppy, and my VPN really, it's not that it slows things down that much, but just for the sake of the stream, you know, I don't want to be doing a stream and at least I think it slows things down because I look at the internet speed, I judge it when it's on, when it's off, and it's like when I have it off, my speed is like 125. When I have it on, it's like 29, 30. So the last thing I want to do is have my stream be on and like cut out or not have a good feed and yeah, we don't want any of that to happen. So I turn my VPN off and I exit out of that trading screen. But you know, if we are to move up, let's say above 18,800, you know, I would probably just unhedge. You know, I would probably unhedge this position, but we'll get into that in a second. So my opinion right now, and I'm going to take plenty of questions during this stream, and we're going to look at a lot of charts that you guys want to take a look at. It definitely slows down. Okay, definitely slows down and drains battery. Yeah, I'm on my I'm on one of my desktops. I'm not worried about the battery part, but I definitely am worrying about the yeah, so might be worth starting another internet account. Well, so the thing about that, Pete, is where I live, there is a there's like a monopoly by the internet company. So that is a pain in the ass. Okay, so they this is Optimum, and they essentially have they kind of run this area, which is, you know, shit, but probably should consider getting out of that agreement some way. it's not that much of a problem to where it's always, if it was always a problem, I would switch, right? If it was always a problem, I would definitely switch because I absolutely need the connection. But it's just like on and off sometimes, and every time that it's off, it's the worst time ever, right? It's like, yeah, every time that it's off, it's the time when I need it the most. So anyway, yeah. So let's take a look at, obviously I want to look at the chart really quick and give you an idea. Yeah, Optimum is rough. Give you an idea of what my opinion is, right? So right now, by all measures, and I've said this, we've gone over this plenty of times before. Let me just make sure this stream is fitting in. Okay, so we have the exterior of the window is lined up right. Right now, yes, the market is it's not overextended. I don't want to say overextended because the market can remain extended for a really long period of time, right? I've marked out some of the key levels that I think are significant that are below us right now, but these are just based on daily levels, right? So these are based on daily swing highs. Really, we don't have too much substantial structure underneath us to go off of. Normally one of the things that I want to see in a big move up is, have we built a base? Well, you could say that arguably this was the base that we built to put in this significant move, but what that leaves open is a pretty deep retrace, because you have a bunch of trailing stops that are here. You have a bunch of positions that have been uninterrupted, right? There's really been no, I want to say, if you look at the structure, there's really been no case of a 4-hour lower low, right? In the entirety of the structure all the way up, it's just been one series of higher lows after higher low on the 4-hour time frame, right? So even if we go to that time frame, it's just been very clear that this trend has moved in one direction only, even though there's been brief periods of consolidation. So really not a whole lot of substantial structure underneath us, which kind of makes it look like we're in a precarious position. But what I will say is just remember that this can continue unabated. This can continue with no interruption. And if there is this systematic spot buying by larger institutional players, it doesn't really matter, right? They're not considering, again, the TA that we're considering right now. And it's something that we've been using for a long time, obviously, but when you introduce a new factor into the market or a new variable, that can change a lot. So right now, the daily levels are right around 16.35, right around 15.6, right around 13.8. These are just the levels that if we did have a significant pullback, right, I would look to these levels to see what kind of response that we have. It doesn't mean that we have to visit these levels, right? You could very well have a significant pullback and the level get front run, which is something that you would see in a very bullish environment like this to begin with. So the market looks extended from a structural standpoint. If we put on something like a moving average, right, a 20-period moving average, this has been extended for the majority of this period, right? And that's normal of a bullish trend, so spending most of the time above the 20-period moving average. Now, a buying opportunity could be a revisit to there. So how that occurs, right, that could mean that price just moves sideways. It doesn't have to mean that price falls down to revisit 20, because it's just a 20-period moving average. This is an EMA, so it weighs the more recent price action more heavily. But if you're looking at a moving average, it's just an arithmetic mean. And what that means is if we just move sideways for 20 periods, or if we compress or consolidate, then this is going to rise up either way. So we would come into contact with this. And I think that, a confluence between the 20-period moving average, right? So if we're looking at that right around 16,680, confluence around this daily level, let's say we're going to get a pretty significant drop, and, let's just use the next 24 hours as an example. Then I would be looking for this little pocket to act as support. So you're looking at dynamic support on the moving average, and we say it's dynamic because it's moving. You'd be looking at static structural support at this horizontal level, and it's static because it's not changing, right? That daily level is going to maintain that. It's going to stay that daily level. And mind you, mine is connected right now to the wick, but it doesn't matter, right? You're looking at right around 16,350, right around 16,300, right? It's this general area where we should see a response if the market comes back to that level. Now, if you start running lows, right, if you start moving into the prior swing low, right, within the structure where you did have this flip, you run the high possibility or you run a high chance of having a run. So having a stop run and flushing out these lows and then looking for maybe a correction right around where this low is. So it's something that is, it does look precarious right now because it is extended. But again, this is a very strong trend. If you look at it on the weekly, historically, we've come back to the weekly moving average. We've gone over this many times before. We are very extended from this right now as well. And this is lining up to be lower, right? This is around 13,000. And if you're looking at the structure on the high time frame, and you were looking at this as, say, let's imagine that this was a lower time frame structure and this was just the big breakout that you had, right, from this high down to these lows, you would expect actually that this area was revisited. So I'm not sharing this because I'm saying that I'm hedged because I think we're coming back there. I'm just saying that this is always something to keep in mind. So why I'm hedged, I think, is something that's worth going further into. So if we look at the last few days, we have been pretty balanced. So we're looking at right now, this is the CME chart, and this is something that I think that you need to pay attention to now. But if we look at, for example, the last 4 days on, this is on BitMEX, but this is going to be the same on Coinbase. This is going to be the same on all the other exchanges. This is a TPO chart. Minor differences, but it's pretty much going to be the same. What you can see over the last 4 days is, let me turn my ink to be a brighter color. What you can see over the last 4 days is that we've been establishing value within this, we're looking at around a $500 range. So after, one of the signs that a trending market is going to potentially cool off or begin to consolidate is when you stop having value migration. So value being where 70% of the activity occurred for the day, and migration being it moving up or down through time. So it not staying confined to a general region, right? So value is being determined higher in a moving trend upward, or rather in a trend, I said that backwards, in a trend that's moving upward, and it's being established lower, or that fair value is being determined lower in a downtrend. And the sign of a range beginning is when you start to have overlap. So once we had this start the other day, we were talking about maybe a range setting up, and that was because value was unable to be determined higher. So you had a day that ended up closing out within a prior trending day's value area. Now, a trending day doesn't get the most weight, but as you can see for the last few days, value has been, again, distributed between 1880 and you're looking at around 1830. Now, if you combine all 4 of these, you get a composite that's right around 18250 and 1880. So when I'm saying that, I mean 18800. I'm sorry, I'm saying 1880. I mean 18,800, so 18.8. So these are the levels right now that I am paying most attention to. Right, if we gain acceptance below this 18, I'm going to say 18.2, and we start approaching these lows again, then I will probably start looking back down to the lows of this prior range. So initially I'd be looking down to around 17.5, 17.6. Okay, so right under this single print, so for that to get flushed. And on the opposite side of that, if we start to gain acceptance above 18,800, I think that you're probably running beyond 19,000. So we've already came up to 19,000. You could say that a short-term trade exists there, right, if you want to be conservative. So from 18.8, so that is a break from this balanced area, right? 18.8 initially up to, let's say, 19,000. And then I think from there you end up running a little bit further up because at that point we've been consolidating for 4 days. That is probably going to have a decent amount of follow-through. But I started hedging over here on the high time frame. So I'm going to be trading still intraday. I'm going to be still taking trades within the structure. So within, right now we have a pretty defined balanced area. It's not balanced per se from one day to the next. So, it's not balanced as in yesterday was a balanced day and today is a balanced day too. Yesterday was not a balanced day, but today is shaping up to be a balanced day, and the last 2 days are within each other. So you have an inside day structure. So today is inside completely the prior day, and you have inside value. So value more specifically, I think should be weighed a little bit more heavily. So I think that value is the thing to focus on. So the last 2 days, value has been restricted to between 18.7 and around 18.4. And if you combine them, we'll get a more specific composite. So I should do that. It's actually 18.3 to around 18.680. So within these levels, right, I think that you could still play the meaner version between here. So very well, you could still play that 18.3 level. So if you lose 18.3 like we just did and we just reclaimed it, you have that long scalp. If you have, a move back up to 18.7, we get a move back up to 18.7. Let's say that we clean up this high and you're back below 18.7. Then yeah, I think you still have these range plays that are offered. But I think you have a lot more certainty if you do break outside of the structure to the upside and to the downside and maintain it. So you might be able to get, I think in this case that I said 18,800, but I think that if you break outside of this inside day structure now, so between 18.7, after being confined for the last 2 days, within a larger range for the last 4 days, I think that you might be able to extrapolate from 18.7 up to 19. Just considering now we've put in another significant move to the low and haven't had follow through. That being said, also now if you're consistently testing that 18.2 region, right, and unable to gain this unable to regain this range, well then again, you're probably coming down to 17.7, 17.6. Okay, so there's plenty of intraday setups. That has nothing to do with my hedging on the higher time frame. So I'm hedging on the higher time frame because I think that ultimately we're approaching an area where the market is getting a little bit overheated. Let me take a sip of my coffee. I think that we're getting a little bit overheated, right? It's actually a lot if you're trading the USD or USDT margin perpetuals. So I'm looking at this right here. This is Bybit at 27 basis points. So whether you look at skew, right? You could go to skew. Well, you can't go to skew anymore. You need a professional account. We have funding that has been elevated the last few days. So for the last week, funding has remained pretty positive. We have annualized basis, all right, annualized rolling 1 month basis, annualized rolling 3 month basis, all consistently rising, right? So across all futures exchanges, you've seen a positive funding. Across all futures exchanges, you've seen this basis be maintained. So there's been periods where the spot has shown strength in the lows, but for the most part, what you're looking at is that over the last few days, basis has been showing that futures are trading at a premium to the spot exchanges. Okay, so there are these intermittent periods where into the lows, we see the spot strength, but up towards the highs again, we start to see futures get more overextended, and again, there's no results for that. So what this is showing, right, so when we're looking at basis, if I'm on skew looking at funding, or you could go to this funding rates website, which is accessible to everybody, so viewbase.com/funding, is that longs are getting a little bit overheated, right? And again, by a little, I actually mean it's approaching a lot at this point, to be honest. So on Bybit, coin margin perpetuals right now, I think the predicted is 0.18, so that's 18 basis points, almost 20 basis points. On the actual exchange right now, I think Bybit's funding is, I can't go on to it because I don't have my VPN. I think it's around 15, okay? So that's 15 basis points, right? So think about that again, just to simplify that. So for those of you that are not familiar with basis points, it's 1/100th of a percentage, right? So you can think about, 15 basis points as if it's 15% of 1%, right? Whatever helps you understand that concept. So if you have, let's just use Bybit as an example and just round it to 20, right? So Bybit, predicted funding being at 20 basis points. So that's 1/5 of a percentage, right? Now, remember that people on these exchanges, a lot of the time, they're using leverage, okay? So let's keep the leverage reasonable. I don't really personally use much leverage at all. Sometimes I'll use 2 times leverage. Sometimes I'll use 3 times leverage. But I don't really use the leverage for that purpose. And we'll get into that later because that's going to be part of the, I'm not going to even say it because then it'll give it away. So Bybit right now, let's say that Bybit's funding rate is 20. So 20 basis points, 0.2. That means that if you're using 5 times leverage, okay, that you on that notional value, right, since it's applied to a notion, you have a notional amount of contracts. Let's imagine that you open up, 5 Bitcoin position, right? You have 1 Bitcoin, you open up a 5 Bitcoin position. So you use 5 times leverage to increase your exposure. So it's not like you're using the leverage for the proper purpose. You're increasing your exposure. You're going to be paying 1% come funding period, right? So 1% of your actual balance is going to go towards the funding. So that's just on a 5 times levered position, right? If you imagine that you're trading on behalf of 1 Bitcoin and you're using 5 Bitcoins. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible with the math. Sometimes I'll just reference Bitcoin being $10,000 because it's really easy to do that math in your head. But you have to imagine that there are people that are also using 20 times leverage. Now think of someone that's using 100 times leverage, right? So at 100 times leverage, their funding payment is going to be 18% of their margin. So that is huge, right? That is huge, okay? So 18% of your margin. Now, if you're using 100 times leverage, right, that's why these funding payments can really, that's why when you do use 100 times leverage, if you do, I've never used that much leverage. I don't even know the max amount of leverage I've used. Maybe I've used like 10 times leverage before. I can't be certain. I've never used more than, I don't think I've ever used more than 10 times leverage. That's just insane. So if you're using 100 times leverage, let's say that you have, just keep it simple. Let's say that you use, $100 to open up a position and you're using, you're using 100 times leverage, right? With this funding, you're paying 18 bucks on that position once the funding rate expires. So just extrapolate on that to larger values. You could see that, let's say that someone has been, now that's one funding period. So as you can imagine, if you have enough leverage, if you have the position juiced up enough with a high funding and multiple periods of funding, you could actually decay your position to zero, right? You could actually liquidate your position, okay? So at some point, anyone who's levered long is going to be considering getting out of position. So whether or not this means that they get out and get back in, okay, or they're just going to de-risk completely, you can either expect that the market it's due for a pullback or it's due for volatility, right? Because the funding period it's known by everybody, all right? So all you have to do to not have to pay that is close out right before that expires. Okay, you could get right back in, and even with the same funding, you don't have to worry about it. It's not like the funding decays your position, right, during that period. All right, it's only if you hold it through funding. So it's a toll, right? If you want to hold your position, you have to pay that toll, okay, through that period. So this is just something that you have to consider, right? This funding right now is beginning to get quite high. And even if we look at something like, if we look at 30-20 delta skew or 25 delta skew, and this is showing us the difference between call and put implied volatility for those deltas, you're starting to see that the market it's very optimistic, right? The market is overheated, right? The long side of things has been the most desirable position to be, right? To be long, excuse me. And you're starting to see that now the futures market is reflecting that. And again, most of this move has been spot driven. And that's a really good thing. So when we're starting to see now that, the market has moved up to a pretty important level, right? So this is around, the all-time high. You have the market all the way up at the previous all-time high. It's very extended at this point. It's almost parabolic, right? If you're looking at the weekly, it's on its way to being parabolic. And you have this very high funding. This is just something that I think is worth keeping in mind with where we sit, because I don't want to be holding, if I could hedge right now, let's say that the market moves up slightly, further, right? And I'm hedged and the market's at 19.2, the market's consolidating. Then we see that funding begins to reset. I have no problem getting back in there, right? Paying the extra to get back in that position after my hedge, at this point, after the market has moved up. What I don't want to do is, be part of some ridiculous cascade after seeing these signs and knowing after the fact that, I didn't do anything to protect myself, right? That I just held like some, brazen bull. Actually, I shouldn't say the brazen bull. I think the brazen bull was a torture tool back in the day. I'm pretty sure it was. If it was called the brazen bull, it was made by an artist for, I forgot what king, and then the king ended up using on the artist because it was so cruel, the idea of how it worked. Won't get into that. We're not talking about medieval torture methods, but I'm pretty sure it was called the brazen bull. But I don't want to be just overly euphoric right now holding this and then have to look back at this period and go, oh yeah, that was really obvious, things got very overheated. So I think right now I think I am doing the right thing by somewhat hedging, or not somewhat hedging, by actually hedging my portfolio up here. Now again, remember, the levels that we have right here, if we go to, now I'll leave this actually because I don't need to go to the BitMEX chart. That 18.8 level, right, and then that 18.2 level, these are our value areas, right, for this entire structure. Okay, so, if we gain the upside and things begin to shift with funding and we see that there has been a reset, or if let's say that we have a flush, okay, and market flushes and then regains this level and we see that funding was reset, I have no problem just getting back in a position, okay? But I want to see something like that occur, versus the market continuously extend upward. If we continuously extend upward, right, and we have that funding get to the extreme, or even more extreme than it is right now, I don't think that I'm being a good risk manager if I'm holding on to that. So the levels that we have currently, just to reiterate them, because I want to take mostly questions and answers and do mostly charts that you guys want to look at. 18.8, you're looking at 18.8, you're looking at 18, around 18, let's get a precise level. So right, this level is 18,250. Let's just say 18,250 for the structure of the last few days, so 4 days, right? This is where value has been established, and you're seeing that again. The one sign that I'm paying attention to that is a little bit worrisome, or it has me a little bit worried, is that for the market moving up in this manner, right, and consolidating up here, the amount of work that we're seeing come in on the futures exchanges, right, in terms of basis and funding, for that work, we're not seeing any further progress. One thing that might shift that, okay, let's say that, and let's keep an eye on this 18,250 level, because this is a pretty defined range now. Let's say that we are continuously grinding against this low, okay, continuously grinding against this low, and over this period you have the volume point of control begin to base out. So as you can see, over the last 3 days, the point of control from a volume standpoint has moved lower. If you see that base out and you see funding begin to go more neutral, right, while maintaining this sideways structure, funding's going neutral. We have another day that, let's say, spends most of its time confined in this range, and now the point of control is lower. Well, then what we have over that period is the point of control that's migrated lower, value that has spent most of this time in this range, and if you have the funding begin to flatten out in that period, I think that at that case you might have, you know, an example of a base that's formed, right, where you spike the low again. Maybe my drawings are always terrible. You build up a base down here from a volume standpoint, right? You've seen the point of control move lower, and you could say that maybe at that point the fact that the funding has shifted is an indication that more shorts were opened and that we've built a base to move upward again at this point. So you know, that's something to pay attention to. This is all for swings, right? This is not affecting intraday trade setups, but this is all for swings. So normally if we have the market that's consolidating for this period of time, if we have volume that's at the highs, you know, then you could say that shorts are in better position if price is down here, right? But in this case, you know, we had the volume that was confined to the highs for the last 2 days, whereas today the volume is beginning to be a little bit more distributed towards the low. So that's something to keep in mind. If you consistently see that the volume is distributed at the low, and then earlier I pointed this out in BlockRoots, we do have more aggressive selling coming in. So from the left to right, you can see that the CVD has moved lower. If you can continue to maintain that, right? If you continue to maintain that, and we continue to maintain this weekly VWAP, and then we're above the daily VWAP, right? So if we're starting to trade back above where most of the volume is come in, and again, if that starts to shift and show more signs of aggressiveness, and we start to see, you know, if you see more signs of aggressiveness on the derivatives exchanges, that's going to reset the funding, right? Because you're having more selling pressure come in. At that point, you know, the market is, I guess, assuming that we're going to be moving lower, and if you're still ranging, it's a sign that they might be getting trapped. So that is one thing that could potentially be setting up, but we're not we do not have enough, I don't think, evidence of that yet. Let's see if there's been any questions. All right. So what does a technical trader do when the technicals are out the window in a bull phase or parabolic run? Well, I've gone over this before. You know, during a parabolic run, it's obviously very difficult. You don't want to be hanging on, I don't think, during a parabolic run. Parabolic is usually the last portion of the move. So whether that's the last portion of the small moves within a parabolic structure, a larger parabolic structure, either way, you know, you could use moving averages as a tool. You could use daily ATR, something like a volatility stop, a few different things, right? Moving averages are helpful because when you're above any kind of all-time high, you don't really have any other reference point to go off of. So there's a few things you could go off of. Sweet Canary, what's going on? No, that's not EXO. That's Sierra charts. This is Sierra. And one thing that I think that you have to keep in mind now moving forward, and I know not everyone has the Sierra and not everyone's going to pay for the data package for the CME, but keep in mind what's going on the CME exchange. So I'm not sure if there is a platform. I don't know if Sierra offers this, but the CME right now, if you just look at CME in terms of open interest, okay, they are number 4 right now. I think they were number 2 or number 3 the other day. So number 4 by open interest, trading above BitMEX, above Huobi, above FTX, all of these exchanges. So a leader basically. And in terms of volume, right, it's not going to trade. You know, CME is not offering 100x leverage. You don't have people using 100x leverage and just degening, but by open interest, right? They are becoming a leader, and I think that you're going to see them take the lead in the next year. So I think you have to pay close attention to what's actually taking place on this exchange. So I have the CME data package hooked up to XO. You don't have to use that. You could just keep an eye on what's going on the CME chart, what's going on with CME volumes, right? You could go to the CME website. There's some free stuff that they offer there. But I think you do have to keep more of what activity is taking place on the CME, because again, I think that they're going to become a leader, right? I definitely think they're going to become a leader. In terms of short-term positioning, just something to point out really quick. If you don't have a TPO chart, right? If you're wondering, well, if I don't have a TPO chart, how do I follow along with some of the things you're talking about? This 4-hour level stands out right here, right? This is the last 4-hour high we were able to put in. It's the last two. So if you're not looking at a TPO chart and you're sort of wondering, where would I get involved, or maybe where could I unhedge? Right? When I say I mean you personally. I think that this high right now is a pretty defining area, and that if you're back above this high, again, we're probably going up to 19. So whether you're using the highs of the 4-hour candle closes as the last area that we were rejected, right? So close through that level, or if you're using a TPO chart, these levels kind of line up pretty nicely. And the same thing can be said with this low right here, right? This low right here, you can see that right now we're kind of fighting to gain that level again. So I'm not really sure, this is not a high conviction area for me. This has happened previously where we've put in this multiple test of this diagonal trend line in a mostly sideways moving structure and then popped up, right? So you have something like this back here where it seems like even that you had a significant rejection. So you had a rejection at the high. So this looked bearish, right? But it maintained this structure all the way up before ultimately moving up and regaining the top side of that. So don't write off the possibility of this occurring, because technically this roll that we have is right back into a previous high. So we have a structure that was consolidating for a few days, and this being the general high of that structure. And this is the revisit. Obviously, I don't need to draw that again. This revisit right now is testing the high of that structure. It is pretty messy, so it's not something that's necessarily good, but don't write out the possibility that this can be just doing something like this. And that's why I said, if this continues to consolidate, and you see that something like the funding rates have begun to, if you see them begin to even out or begin to return to more neutral levels, then we could just move up again, right? There's no rules as to whether or not price needs to correct. These are just things that we keep in mind, right? Is the market? What signs is the market giving you? What signs are the market giving you? I don't know which way is the right way to say it. We need cred right now, right? What are the signs that the market is giving that indicate that you are potentially in an area where things are getting overheated? And I think you have a few of them right now. So I think it's fair to say we have a few of them. I'm not saying that it has to turn right here, though. I just feel like this is a good area to maybe consider protecting a little bit, right? Whether you're protecting your whole account or you're protecting a little bit of it, I think that it makes sense. Do you recommend? Okay, so let's take questions, because the market is kind of in a boring mode right now. I think that what you have to think of is that today, another thing to consider is it's club soda. Is that Monday mornings, when you've seen that traditional markets open again, and DXY is moving up right now, equities were moving lower initially. When you don't see the bid, and every other time you did get the bid from traditional markets or during traditional market hours, I think that's something to pay attention to right now too. So I went over this on Twitter. I said, hey, if I'm a traditional market participant, I'm a big fund, and I'm seeing that the crypto native metrics that are that we could look at that give us an indication that things are overheated. If I'm seeing signs that they are getting overheated, and I know that I am the one providing a lot of the bid, why not let the market fall on itself, right? Why not let the market roll over a little bit and pick up the pieces where it falls? So we're not really seeing any kind of Monday morning aggressiveness right now. And that's something that kind of, I think, sets the tone for the day. So that's another thing to consider, right? it's not this is just choppy, and again, it's not the weekend anymore. This is choppy behavior, and it's not the weekend, which is something to I think to weigh a little bit. Let's see. All right. What would you recommend, Sierra or EXO? So I just started using EXO a lot more because I'm going to, I don't know, I'm anticipating, not anticipating, I know that they're going to be releasing a desktop platform soon. So I started to use their platform more frequently recently, knowing that that's coming, because Sierra is good, but they don't have any other data integrations, which is, you know, you need them because BitMEX is, it's not really as relevant as it used to be. It is still relevant, right? It still does give good order flow setups on the lower time frames, but as you can imagine, like that's going to expire at some point, right? If other exchanges take a clear lead and most of the money is going to these exchanges, then it makes sense to look at those exchanges. It doesn't make any sense at that point to like hang on to BitMEX for how things used to be. You know, once the setups aren't there anymore, or rather once once that information becomes a little bit more obsolete, well, then it just makes sense to go to the place where it shows up a little bit more obviously, or it's more actionable rather. I have dry mouth this morning. I think it is club soda. I'm trying to always determine what you know, what's causing my issue, my dry mouth issue recently. It's probably a combination of drinking black coffee and then club soda, so the acid. But it's fucking annoying. Okay, so I think that EXO is a phenomenal platform the way it is, but I think when they release a desktop client, it'll be even better, because that's what Sierra is, a desktop client or desktop application, and it's just a really nice setup. But I've also, I think that EXO is good, obviously, because they have a lot of different pairs, right? And Sierra is super limited. Okay. Let's see. You touched on it before, but in your opinion, do the institutions high net worth HNWs that Ari Paul tweeted about today have the intention to hold BTC long term? Yeah, so institutions don't mean hedge funds, really, you know, because in that way, institutions have been here for a really long time. Institutions are like pension funds and sovereign wealth funds. So you can think of that. So big institutional investors, long only type funds. So these are the funds we're interested in. We're not interested in, I just say this because you said, I think, oh no, you didn't say hedge funds. I saw the H and I think I just went off of that, but I think you meant high net worth individuals. Yeah, I think that the newer players that we're seeing come in are absolutely long only and have intention of holding for some time. You know, MicroStrategy, Square, any other larger asset manager that's getting involved right now, you know, they're not getting involved in Bitcoin for the next few months. You know, higher time frames are what they have in mind. You know, and that's not even 6 months. That's not, I'm saying this because in crypto, there's like this idea of HTF, LTF, higher time frame, lower time frame. It's all relative, right? In crypto, when we talk about the high time frame, you could be talking about a 4-hour chart. You could be talking about a daily chart. You could be talking about a weekly chart. In traditional markets, high time frame is like a monthly chart, right? It's a weekly chart minimum. And high time frame investments, that's like at least 2 years, I would say. You know, at least a year. We'll just use a year because it's definitely at least a year. But you know, when you make an investment, if you go by someone like Warren Buffett, for instance, when he makes an investment, he's thinking five years a minimum, I would say. So I would think that the same behavior is to be seen by other larger institutions as well. So yeah, I don't think they have short term. I don't think they're here for the short term. Hedge funds are, right? They are directionally agnostic. Hedge funds, fast money, small funds. What signs is the market giving you? Well, I think I just went over that. This market looks like it's approaching. It is a lot more overheated than it. We'll put it this way: the market can remain overheated, right? Because the trend can also remain up for a really long period of time, obviously, and not give us a significant correction. Is this time different? Well, if there are actual large asset managers bidding this up, TWAPing in, and just constantly providing a bid, well, then maybe we don't need a tremendous correction. We also don't have a market that is as levered as it was prior. Maybe this is due to BitMEX, right? But I still think that, when you see that there are signs when the market is very overheated compared to anywhere it's been more recently, that you do have to maybe back up a little bit. So I think that that's where we are right now. We haven't been this overheated in quite some time. And you're actually starting to see a decent amount of selling come in as well. So this is something to point out because I just referenced this. In prior consolidations where you had multiple tests of the low, so I was talking about this one. All right. If we look at that one, if we look at that on the lower time frames, so back over here. So I want to take this moving average off. We don't need that. So right over here, you can see that this was kind of flat. It was neutral, right? And you even had a period where it was trading negative. And that is the premium index, which is a derivative of basis. Over here, it's a different story, right? You have that line respected, but you have a ton of effort that is still coming in, making that premium index be more positive than it's been in a really long time. So it's always just a matter of, I try to make this as simple as possible. It's a matter of, all right, so you have more effort coming into the market, but you're not making any higher prices, right? So if you have more buyers coming in, but the market isn't moving up further, it's just telling you that there's a high probability that they're getting trapped at that point, right? When you see more work come in, less to show for it. If we are making any kind of higher high, right, even on low time frames, that would be, maybe we'd be able to write that off a little bit temporarily, but we haven't been able to really do anything with this 18,800 level. So, other than this small little 1 hour high, the market has been pretty much stuck here. So again, that's why I said if we continue to range out, let's say we move sideways for another day or two, and you saw that the funding began to reset, okay, then maybe we're setting up for another move. But right now it's just showing that one, you just pay attention to sentiment. If you look at options right now, this is kind of giving you an idea of sentiment in terms of skew. So people are really, really, optimistic about upside right now. It would really look obvious as hell in hindsight if the market was to crash at this point, right? Let's say that, let's just imagine hypothetically that we're down at 15.6 in, the next few hours. Everyone's going to be like, oh my God, what was I doing? That was so obvious. Or a deeper pullback, right? Just an idea of a deep, violent pullback. Everyone is going to, you're going to be like, shit, why didn't I sell? That was so obvious. Everyone and their mother was talking about Bitcoin. While everyone was talking about it, they were saying that no one was talking about it. What the hell is going on, right? Should have seen the signs. So I think that some of the signs right now are there. And this is not for the higher time frame trend. I'm not talking about where it's going to be in the next few months. I'm talking about literally where it's going to be. This is going to, I'll say, for the next week, right? This kind of correction might be the kind of thing where I always say this, you might be better off not being at the computer, right? If you're a long-term holder, these types of things are things you have to expect. So make sure that you understand this is very limited to I'm talking about the short term, right? Higher time frame trend, I'm not talking about this being the top, right? I'm talking about this maybe doing something like this, right? That's it. Or maybe doing something like this, okay? Which, when you're looking at this chart now, and if you look at it in a log chart, some people don't like to look at it in a log chart, but it has logarithmic growth, right? And you're just trying to fit all the data into one chart. If you look at this right now and you pulled back here and you did this, okay, that would just be, oh yeah, it was nothing. That was, we did that so many times back here. So we normally get ridiculous pullbacks. The only thing that is maybe questionable as to why we're not getting it now is now we actually have a real spot bid by larger individuals. So, it remains to be seen. I just think the signs are there to be cautious. All right, so can you talk about coins that have 100x potential? Oh man, I see where this is going. See, market is overheated. Yeah. So coins that have 100x potential. Okay. Sir Charm. Without going into any detail, because, I get it. Everyone wants 100x their bags. It's a lottery shot. That's the lottery, right? That's awesome. That's not something you look for, though. You don't really look for, you do, right? You look for, if you're going to spend time doing this stuff, that's a different channel, right? That's fundamentals. That is, trying to find a diamond in the rough, needle in the haystack kind of thing. If you want my sort of mathematical interpretation of what could 100x, well, things that have a really low market cap could 100x, and still fit within what is acceptable in terms of, or rather what wouldn't surprise me. Like if you had something that was, well, let's say, let's go really far out. You have something like this, right? This is $1 million market cap. This is NIZO. I don't know what this is. Don't think anything about it. This is NIZO, right? This is a $1 million market cap. Okay, now market cap is only a function of the last traded price and the supply. So if suddenly on the exchanges it was trading 20% higher, but there was no liquidity really to back it, there was no real bid, that higher price is going to be the last thing to calculate the market price. So market price is a multiple, right? It's a it is based on, that multiple, right? So market price, you might look at this and say, market cap, you might look at this and say, okay, well, we have plenty of coins that are $100 million, assets. Well, then if I find one that is $1 million right now, then, that has 100x potential. That is, it's a completely different area of work, right? I don't look at things like that. I do look at things like that are good products, good projects that have a sort of viral nature to them. And they have a low market cap, I could say, all right, these have the potential to double, right? I've seen things like this double quite quickly, but I think that it's just a bad idea to come to the market and go, talk about coins, or can we find a coin that has 100x potential, right? Bitcoin, does it have 100x potential? Is there a non-zero probability that it could go 100x? Yes, but are the chances high? Are the odds in your are the odds in our favor that it will? That's another question, right? So can things go up 100 times? Yes. Are you going to make I think finally getting to what I want to say. Are you going to make a career of finding things at 100x? Probably not. You're probably going to lose a lot in the process. Can you look at things right now and say, hey, maybe I'm just going to take a shot on a basket of coins, a very small amount of money in each of them, and try to treat it like a venture capitalist would? Hoping that, one of 30, one of 50 hit. Yeah, but you'd still spend a lot of money in the process of doing that. So, I find that stuff kind of dangerous, that line of thinking dangerous. Care to look at the volume profile session volume on Wi-Fi 1 hour chart? Yeah, sure, I'll look at that X factor. Let's look at that. What's going on, Kaz? Newly married Kaz. Welcome to the married life. Everyone say congratulations to Kaz. Kaz is a very talented trader, buddy, and he recently just got married. And he's a golfer too, so we like him. But all right, so looking at Wi-Fi, I think that Wi-Fi continues in the direction of BTC and ETH for this run. So I think Wi-Fi is definitely a horse to bet on. But it's a higher beta version of BTC. It's a higher beta version of ETH. So if either of those scenarios occur where you have a significant pullback, right? Market is overheated right now, so that's why we're bringing that up. Or it can be continuously overheated, remember that. But if you do have a significant pullback, Wi-Fi is going to probably pull back a little bit more than any of the lower beta pairs. So I would say that this, the area I would look to, I wouldn't even really focus on the session volume, honestly. These are, Wi-Fi is thinner compared to BTC. This is your session volume, so I don't know what there is to really focus too much on this. You have a, naked point of control from yesterday's session. I would stick with structure for these altcoins. So I think that you could look down to around 17 where this entire flip occurred down here. All right, these lows over here, down around 17, and say that would be a good area to find support if you had a significant pullback across the board. I don't know what if there's anything specifically you wanted to look at in the session volume. So yeah. All right, let's see. Ryan, do you guys sell crypto trading signals? No, we don't sell trading signals. I've gone into like countless times before. That's the worst thing you could do is buy trading signals. You know, if you don't know what my hit rate is, if you don't know the losses that I expect in my system, then you're gonna, or someone else's, you'll buy their signals and whatever shit they put out, and they might have 3 losses in a row, and they know that their losses are to be expected, and you don't, so you write the system off, or you buy someone's signals who has a good run of performance, and meanwhile they're a shit trader. So you just don't know where you fall in with that distribution, and you should just learn how to trade on your own. You shouldn't be, or not on your own. You don't have to learn on your own, right? There's YouTube, there's books, there's, good educational platforms, but you should never buy a signals group. No one has ever gotten rich buying someone else's signals. I think I could say that with confidence. I don't 100% know that, right? There's always going to be that one part of the sample that is not the case, right? But I think that you could bet on it not being a good idea. Chinese miners are having trouble selling BTC because of government sanctions. Yeah, I don't ripcord. I honestly don't pay too much attention to the miner stuff. I focus mostly on the technicals that I focus on. They kind of, I think, tell me a pretty decent, well-rounded story of what's going on either way. So, and if not, I'm protected in the event that there's anything massive that happens. So I don't add too much to my analysis with regard to any kind of miner data. Options data, I look at Genesis volatility. You got to pay for that. I am, thankfully, they were gracious enough to give me a membership for helping them out in the beginning. Skew is good. Skew is $700 a month though. All right. Have you ever looked at Energy Web Token? Yeah. Let me see Energy Web Token. It's on KuCoin. So again, I don't really focus on the fundamentals. If something has a compelling story and immediately clicks for me, that helps it, right? Of course, something just makes sense. But I don't focus too much on fundamentals. I think that kind of adds to the narrative, and if it has some kind of narrative to begin with, or viral quality, or even if it's you think that memes work out as well, right? But I don't focus too much on the fundamentals. Again, it could just really make it a little bit stronger when the chart looks good, but that's just because it's not my area of competence, right? It doesn't mean that it's not good. But if I'm looking at this chart right now, right, let's say that we're going to continue on the up and up, right, with the remainder of the market moving up, then the chart right now would look like something that I would be looking for a long in, right? Just off the fact that we have a trend that was moving downward consistently. I bet that you probably had an RSI divergence down here just because we had a significant move into the low, and then you had this loss of momentum into these lows. So for those of you that use RSI, just show you that you could probably more often not see these with your eye. So you have a significant move, and then you have smaller moves after. It's always going to print an RSI divergence, right, in a trending market. So we had that come in. Excuse me. We had what looks like a low put in, retaking a prior high, and now you're finding support up there. I think that looks good from a structural standpoint. For all BlockRoots members, they know that I just go by weekly charts for alts. If you have the weekly, enough weekly data, otherwise it's daily charts. And what I look at is because I happen to look at this because it has been the case, prior weekly swing lows because we are moving down forever. And I only look for longs if we've retaken a significant higher time frame low on the chart. And so in this case, we're making lows all the way down, rejected on the way down as well. So right now you have the case for, a higher high in the process, right, in terms of the immediate trend and potentially a higher low. So this would open up the door for longs for me. I just, again, it matters on context. What's the remainder of the market doing? And then if you want to add any fundamentals to that, I guess that can help your story as well. Okay. All right. Let's see. Good. Everyone congratulating Kaz. Could you take a look at waves? Yeah, let's take a look at waves. Waves a good looking chart, right? I mean, but it's put it. So here's the thing. Everything, you know, I feel like when I do these streams lately, that everyone shares charts that, yeah, have looked great because they've already put in really significant moves to the upside, right? So waves against BTC. One of the things you want to see when Bitcoin is moving up is that if you're in something other than Bitcoin, that it's outperforming Bitcoin, right? You don't want to be in an altcoin that's underperforming Bitcoin. So waves against BTC, right? You're seeing that it has strength against BTC. That's good. That's one thing that I immediately want to pay attention to. Now, waves against prior structure. If you're looking at this structure right here, this would have been, you know, if I was asked back here, right? So let's say I was asked back here, where would I consider getting long? And let's say we were right here. I would have told you that we're at resistance, and I would consider getting long if we're going to flip that into support, right? Now, best case scenario when you have a move like this, where a structure is flipped, if, you know, it's going to be hyper bullish, I would want to see that it maintains the top side of this structure. In this case, it's an altcoin, right? It's thin. It's going to be loose with its movements. We still have a structure that is putting in higher lows, higher highs. If you were to take a guess right now as to what this one was going to be, would you say that this is going to be the higher low right here or the higher high? You know, I think that where we're sitting right now with the current market the way it is, if I'm making a case for maybe Bitcoin being overheated, and you're looking at an altcoin that has put in a pretty large move to the upside, right, from the low to the high right now being 3,000%. Let's just look at this more recent leg. This more recent leg in the last few weeks is, you know, it's 269%, right? So if you're going to place a bet, gun to your head, what do you think is going to be the case? Is this the high or is this the low? You know, Bitcoin, where's Bitcoin right now? I guess you could inform it by saying that. Where's Bitcoin? You know, is Bitcoin overheating? If Bitcoin is going to be pulling back, these are like higher beta Bitcoin, right? Alts, just consider them higher beta Bitcoin at this point. The only time that I said that that might not be the case are how connected is something to Bitcoin, right? If something has an immediate conduit through Bitcoin into fiat or just into Bitcoin, then you'll see that probably that it'll more likely have an immediate reaction if Bitcoin moves down. Whereas, you know, some DeFi pairs that you have to go onto a DEX to trade, they're not going to move the same because there's a little bit more friction in them moving, right? So it's not the same. People are not going to be able to just go and immediately click into Bitcoin, right? They're not immediately going to be able to flee. So that's why I said I think there's some lag between things that are really small DeFi pairs. And they're just that insignificant to begin with. They're not even thick enough for most people to consider getting out of. So I think some of them have held up decently in Bitcoin's pullbacks. But that's because there's not a meaningful amount of money in them to begin with, and there's just no immediate path from them to Bitcoin. So waves right now, I think that, you know, waves is a bullish chart, right? But it's a bullish chart, and this is an old chart, right? This is in hindsight now. So I think I would expect at this point, given where Bitcoin is, that we get a significant pullback. If you're going to look for an area to have that pullback too, in a bullish market right now, I look for areas to get front run. So rather than focus on the actual structure down here, the first area I'd look for a response is towards the high. So between 410, 470, to look for market structure over there to form some type of strong structure based on a responsive price action down that level. So let's see. Nouriel Rabini, sell signals. Dot. So Dot has been Dot after that 450 break. We were talking about 450 now for a really long time. Dot after that 450 break, what did I say? Dot was going to take out the high, and the next target would be up here. Dot is something that I think you could bet on performing exceptionally well with Bitcoin in the coming months, right? As long as we're going to continue moving up. Dot seems like a chosen horse in this race by not just myself, but by other people. In terms of Dot, where Dot is right now, right? In the last 48 hours, Dot has shown that it's pretty resilient. I'm not a buyer right here. So I was in and out of Dot in short-term trades recently, but I'm not a buyer right here. So I would look at Dot. If I'm looking at an area to get involved with Dot, I would say that if Bitcoin is pulling back, you're looking at Dot, I'd say right around back at 5. So back at 5, or if it's going to be really strong, holding this structure up here. down to 540, but so maybe right around into this low. But it's all, at this point, the way that everything is sitting up higher, and Bitcoin is extended as well. You know, you just have to always consider if there's more risk ahead of you or more reward. And I think that where we're sitting right now, that it's dangerous to consider opening up any meaningful positions. Put it that way. Okay. Haven't found raw data on Chinese miners selling, but I'm looking. I mean, if miners are going to sell, it makes sense for them to hedge using futures, honestly. Let's see. XRP, XLM have shown life recently. Yeah, I think XRP is sort of like LTC in the same dead structure for a long time. Oh, I already had it on the chart. Okay. So you had, you know, structurally wise, there's no reason why you can't trade this thing. I just don't think that it's something you hold on to. So put it that way. This is setting up for a nice opportunity to long. You know, after, so again, how do I look at charts, right? So this is our weekly chart right here. So weekly, the most significant levels on this chart right now, as the chart has progressed, I think you could say arguably this low, again, keep things loose, right? This is an altcoin. It's not exactly the most liquid asset. So a low, defended all the way up into September 2019. We began to lose it back here. It's a little messy, but clear again, back above into the structure, rejected. You know, that is one of your more significant levels on the chart to leave, right? As we continue to progress and make new lower lows, I am keeping an eye on these lows to see when that story begins to shift. So it's a matter of, you know, beginning to change from transitioning on the way down to retaking back levels on the way up. So once you start gaining acceptance above a low like this, okay, you, I think, more often than not, are just offered to trade back up to the more recent swing high between a gap. So I would say, all right, so you're long, and I don't trade XRP. So this is how much I don't give a shit about XRP, that even though you can trade it, it's so off my radar. So you're above this low, you're targeting this high. That's my system, okay? Now, on the way up, we're treating previous lows that we created on the way down as support, and that's fantastic. Now, where you need to come back into this right now and treat as support is back down here, okay? And do I think it's coming back down there? Absolutely. I don't think of XRP as the future of finance or anything more than a tradable asset. So honestly, if Bitcoin is going to cool off right now, I think that whoever is building shorts currently on XRP will be paid heavily. Put it that way. So this is the last major contextual level between where we currently sit in this gap. And you've just seen how XRP just loves to put in big squeezes to the upside and then, you know, retrace the move. So okay. Tips for developing a trading system. Record everything. Record everything. Start simple. Start with simple setups. Okay. Start with, you know, flags on the 30-minute chart, right? Start with something simple. I'm being overly simplistic, but start with something simple, right? Record all of the outcomes, okay? Understand the importance of risk management, obviously. So setting stops, abiding by those. There's so much to this. Obviously, you can't cover this in just a brief stream, but understand the importance of getting out of positions, right? Your invalidations. Position sizing is the most important thing, right? Bet sizing. So how many swings can you take, right? How many chances are you giving yourself at bat? Bet sizing is probably the most important thing. Developing a trading system. I would start with all the free resources first. There's a great book that is a really old book, and hold on one second. I have a bookcase. I have bookcases above me. I have a bookcase to the side of me. And then I have a bookcase, a big bookcase in the other room. It doesn't look like I have it right here. What's the name of it again? It's a snake oil name. It is, shit, I'm like looking around. What's it called? It's a great book to start, and I want to recommend it to you. Geez, what is it called? Give me 1 second. I'll remember it. It is How to Trade Your Way to Financial Freedom. It's by Van Thorpe or Van Tharp. It sounds like snaky, like the title, right? But it's actually one of the best books you could trade if you're trying to learn how to either, trade a little bit on the side or trade period. It's a great starting block. And again, it sounds snake oily, right? How to trade your way to financial freedom. But the material inside of it is not like that at all. It's an old book, so the title is kind of like maybe back then they didn't think that was a bad title to use, but now you would look at that and be like, oh, that guy's sounds like a multi-level marketing company pitch, right? How to trade your way to financial freedom. So that's a great book, and you could find that probably on Amazon for like $10. So could you take a look at Aave? Yeah, we could take a look at Aave. I'm in a pretty large Aave position. This is my largest position outside of Bitcoin and ETH. So I'm in a pretty substantial Aave position, and I'm not changing this. I've put on such a large position that for me to get in and out, it would be more of a headache than know that, or then just operate with confidence in this one that as long as we maintain the structure, I'm completely fine right here. So this 53 level, I think that Aave, I think SNX, Rune, I think all of these are going to have really good runs during any kind of prolonged bull market. So, Aave local structure, yeah, might we be putting in some type of larger consolidation between these levels? It's absolutely possible. Right now treating this high right here as a support, does that necessarily need to hold? Not necessarily, right? So this is something that I am personally, I have a pretty substantial position in. It looks like it's going to be cooling off. But it was one of the stronger pairs initially, so it could be one of the first pairs that we see go on to recover if Bitcoin cools off and alts move sideways. This, I think, is a little bit more significant than a shitcoin that is, and I went to Energy Web Token because it was the last thing, but it's not what I was going to use to refer to, than a lot of your other DeFi pairs. I think that there are DeFi pairs right now that I do believe in. So Aave, SNX, I think that those are definitely good horses to bet on in any kind of race moving forward. But again, Aave for me just needs to maintain this 51 sort of, did I say 53? It's right at this low. So this daily low that we put in. Alts can get messy, right? Alts can chop around, put in some type of higher time frame structure over the next, it could go past, December, and then have another really big markup where they go on, another 300 to 400% move. Let's see. QTUM. Seller, yeah, I've looked at Seller every single live stream so far. Everyone wants to know about Seller. I mean, so far, retaking a previous low on the way down, so we've satisfied that criteria. So, good area to find support, right? Good area to find support. Contextually, a decent area if you're looking for a long. That's on the Binance chart, so that's against USD. USDT. Let's see, is there a longer term chart that maybe we're missing that we don't want to leave out? Maybe it's on this. No, this is a Binance. Okay, this is initially a coin that was created off of Binance, so I think that's right? An ICO or an IEO. So this is, if we're going by my rules, right? This low right here, reclaiming this is a bullish sign in the higher time frame. So I think anywhere above here, finding a good area to enter in, you're looking at a higher time frame target of at least this high. That's not knowing anything about this fundamentally though, right? It's just in terms of contextual risk reward. So close to an area where I could define a position, right? Because if we're back below this low, I'm out. It's coming back down here. And above here, your higher time frame target is back up at this high. Okay. QTUM. It's an old pair. Been around forever. Maybe it's the Lindy thing, though, right? The Lindy effect with Qtum. So Qtum, you know, that's a really old pair, but it's kind of one of those charts. It's like an LTC, a XRP, right? Where you have a higher time frame support zone. You know, your best long was back here the first time you lost and then regained it, which you got more than you bargained for, because your first target would have been up here for me, but you came all the way up to this local high, not local high, for that higher time frame high. I think that Qtum right now showing the same kind of strength that XRP did initially. You know, so whether or not this is a good long opportunity, I don't know what the hell Qtum is, honestly, but holding this level right here, so holding this flip, is a good sign. And you've put in this high already, and if everything is on the up and up, I don't see any reason why this wouldn't be too. But I don't know anything about it, honestly, so XRP, and the point of me saying that, and you might be wondering what does that mean, because none of these things, like you said, are things you're really that interested in fundamentally right off the bat, is that this will become more of a picker's market. I think fundamentals will matter more. Jake, XRP, I think I already went over that. Okay, so for those who took profits, Chainlink at 15. So it's funny because when I was in and out of Link, and I've been in and out of it quite frequently, originally I built a spot position, and I did this publicly between, you know, I think it was like 980, and my last order didn't hit at 815. So I built it thinking that this would be a consolidation very similar to exactly how it played out. Ended up closing out this position thinking we were going to get another move back down to the low. I was stopped out of a long over here. It was all very public. But one of my first targets was 15, right? So this 15 level, do I think it's going to hold as resistance? No, I said that that would be an area to manage the trade. So it's an area where you determine whether or not you're going to compound, pull some off, right? Wait for some more of a pullback. But I think that Link is showing that it has resolve and it's going to be moving up with everything else. If everything else is going to be moving up over the next few months, I wouldn't try to overmanage this, right? So here's your, for just looking at higher time frame supports. Okay, you're looking at how this weekly lines up with this daily. So anything right down into this level that you can get filled on, I think you're looking at a plus 20 Link either way over the next coming months. XRP is a scam token. Oh, we're going to have an XRP fight. So, Jake, you just said something that's really funny. So you said you wouldn't think that if you owned any in capitals. Okay. So you own XRP and you don't think it's a scam token. Freddie doesn't own XRP and he says it is a scam token. So Jake, you're coming from a place of bias though, and this is not saying I don't think that don't worry about my personal opinion on XRP, right? I have a lot of personal opinions on things and not all of them are right. But you're coming from a place of bias, right? So you have to understand one of the more important things to understand for a trader is cognitive bias. So you just said it. You wouldn't think that if you owned any. So be careful with that way of thinking because, you know, you could marry into things that that are not worth holding. And I'm not saying that's XRP, but I'm just showing you that that train of thought or way of thinking is a very dangerous one. You just said it yourself. You wouldn't think that if you owned any. So you have to be objective about things. And again, like I said, I'm not specifically speaking to XRP. I'm just saying in general. That's not the way of thinking, the way that you want to go about thinking about these cryptocurrencies right now. Okay. XRP is a mechanism by which Ripple fund development of network. Yeah, so they are partnered with them, but here's the problem, guys. So for XRP holders, if XRP is okay, good, you're here to trade it. That's good to hear. XRP, if they're going to try to issue a, a while back they're talking about issuing stock, well then why the hell would you want to own the XRP token? Why would you not want to own the stock, right? One of them is an actual share in the company. It's an actual, it's legal. It's an actual, legally, it's an actual share of the company, right, versus a token. So more astute investors would buy the share. Okay. Van Tharp, right. Trade Your Way to Financial Freedom. What book would you recommend to get a proper understanding of the markets? I would start with so many books. For technicals, I would go with, the basic technical book that everyone loves is Technical Analysis of the Financial Markets by, what's his name? Technical Analysis by the Financial Markets, John, I forgot his name. Is it somewhere up here? No, it's not up there. I forgot his name. But Technical Analysis of Financial Markets, good book for technicals, basics. To understand markets, I think you have to read a lot of different books. I think you have to read books, history books. I think you have to read, the misbehavior of markets, or what's another one that's a good one? I think you could read something like, I have a bunch of them above me. I should just go through them. Misbehavior of markets, Fooled by Randomness. Let's see. Diary of a Very Bad Year. Markets in Profile. You can read a lot of books. I mean, it's hard to say. I have a whole list. I'll give you that list if you message me on Twitter. So yeah. F104. John Murphy. Thank you. I'm like, why is everyone saying Murphy? Okay. It's also a great book. So I pulled up here. I'll show you all the books right now. So let's go to the Discord real quick, because I'm like trying to remember the books, and I am a voracious reader, and I definitely have easily over 1,000 books in this room alone. So let's see. Yeah, I have a pretty awesome bookcase, multiple bookcases. And I'm the kind of person who just will go onto Amazon and buy a book every other day just to have the book for the one time that for the case that I might want to read it. Old books, I don't know, something about them that I like. But let's see. Literature. Here we go. So, okay, and I categorize this too. So technical basics, right? Financial markets related. So The Alchemy of Finance. That's what I was trying to think of. That is an awesome book. Awesome book. Top 5 book. Rise of Carry. You can see all the other ones as well. I'm trying to think of what else stands out. All right. Fooled by Randomness, Black Swan. Most Important Things, really good. So screenshot this. All right. Some more questions, maybe. I gotta lay off the coffee and the club soda. My mouth is so fucking dry. All right, AST. I don't know what Mason. Top 1 F104 book. What about the F104? The plane? I don't know what that means. Keep it trading related. Okay, AirSwap. I think, okay, so again, to reiterate, everything is on the way up right now. Everything has been on the way up and has, everything has wind in its sails because the rest of the market is moving up. So all the major levels kind of stand out right now with AirSwap, right? So on the way down, on the way back up, more recently resistance, now support. So you would want to see that this is the best opportunity right now for an area to act as support right at this level. So does this maintain support given that Bitcoin might have more of a correction? We'll see, right? That would be a really bullish sign for AirSwap to maintain this, 10-cent area if Bitcoin corrects. Do I think that generally is the case with alts? No. So I would be looking for this more to violate the last consolidation. Does that really matter that much for an alt? If it does that, does it mean that if it comes down here, it's not bullish anymore? No. So what I want to stress is I would just be careful. I point out the levels. I would just be careful marrying them, right? You have to know what it is you're trading. And the things that you're trading when you're trading alts, they're thinner, right? They're not going to respect levels as cleanly as a thicker asset. So that's just something to consider. No, it's a good one. Mason, I don't understand. No, it's a good one. Alchemy of Finance. Yes, I said Alchemy of Finance, and that's George Soros. Yeah. I'll if you Twitter me, send me a message on Twitter. I'll give you that list. All right, so uni and comp. I got screwed in. So uni is at a significant resistance right now, right? This was support on the way down, and it's significant because it's just acting significant. It's like this shouldn't have been that significant, I think, in this type of trend that we've had with everything else moving up. Why has uni's previous support turn resistance? Why has it been acting so tough? This just means to me that the break above here is that much more significant, right? So this 390 level that's acted as daily resistance now for the last going on like 2 weeks, over a week. It's just every single day it's done its job, right? So I'm going to wait for this to close above here before I make any changes, because that's clean. So I don't know why it's that clean. I don't know why it can't get above that level. Algo. Yeah, I'll look at Algo. And then we're probably going to wrap it up soon, guys. We're hour and a half into this. I think I already had Algo on it. All right, come on. Yeah, so so you could see that I've had these levels marked out from a while ago as the first levels to look to long. So based on that, again, my whole weekly thesis, it's not a thesis, it's just the way that I approach it, right? I think it's the best way to approach it in terms of alts, right? You want to see that it's not just some loose correction above a level. You want to see that we're reclaiming the weekly level. So that's well into hindsight. We've already retraced this entire move. Treat this as support? I guess so. I mean, this is not, right now I would need to see that this, for algo, I would need to see that we are back above this cluster right here. So the thing is, like, I could say this, right? We could come back above 337, and someone might hear that and say, well, why are you applying that as your criteria? Like obviously that implies we're getting up there, we're on our way there. Well, that's just the kind of criteria I want to apply to alts, just because they'll screw you over, right? You don't want to give them too much faith. That's the thing. You don't want to bet on them too hard and say, oh, everything's going to be moving up. So anything that's rounding out at a low, or is looking like it might be finding support, is just worth longing now because it's eventually going to get there at some point. No, not necessarily, right? Yeah. So let me just look at BTC one more time, and we'll wrap it up. So, I mean, you do have this level being respected, right? And we have seen in the past where you've had a high that has maintained this static level, and then we've tested the lows multiple times, only to continuously test them before finally breaking upward. That's fine, right? I'm not going to give it that much confidence right now, the way that I was so confident. You guys remember now, if you've been following along, I was telling everyone basically, from 94 that it was a long, but then calling people basically fucking idiots if they weren't longing this. Excuse my language, but this is not a stream for kids. But I was basically saying, dude, if you don't long this, you're a moron, right? This is the most important major contextual support and resistance flip that we've ever had. Right? You're not going to long that. So I've been hyper bullish this entire time. Now, this is, again, on my lower time frame trading, I have a very specific way I trade. On my higher time frame trading, it's kind of the same thing, but applied to different tools that I use, or rather applied with different tools that I use to judge whether or not things are crowded. Again, this is weird because it's not, we're talking about institutions maybe coming in and bidding this up. So does it even matter that they're that crowded? Well, yeah, because I still don't want to get any kind of ridiculous long exposure with leverage products until I don't have to pay that funding. But I think that other people as well are going to be looking for that to reset. And you're actually starting to see since the beginning of this, that Bybit funding has come down, right? So what I was saying was, you know, I am hedging, but if things change during this, then things will change, right? Then we'll change our positioning. Then I'll just re-enter back in, right? My hedge is just, I'm just delta neutral right now, right? I'm hedged my off cold wild amount on the derivatives platform. So if the market goes up, I'm still exposed, right? I'm not going to lose USD value if it goes down. So if we're able to maintain this low, and we continue into this low, and we see that, you know, I pointed this out, that into this low, you look on the CME as well, higher low, lower low on CVD, and then if you look at BitMEX, for example, pull this chart over here. What the hell? Sometimes that fan comes out. So this as well. You have a series of higher lows, but the CVD has made a much more obvious lower low. If you have that, and the market's moving up, sideways, whatever, slightly up, slightly sideways, and you see the funding is now reset, then it's a long. Right? Then it's a long. You know, if it's back above 87, or excuse me, I say 87, but I'm thinking 18.7. Then maybe that intraday setup turns into a longer day setup, right? The intraday setup being this. I'm trying to scale this for you guys. Inside day, inside value, 18.7 break and acceptance of. Above, 19,000 target, right? Acceptance above, though. You don't want to see that we're just, you know, up for a 5-minute candle, right? I want to see that we're able to maintain a floor here. You know, if we do something like this, or let's say another day, again, here's a best case scenario that I could think of for getting out of my hedge. So we maintain this structure the way it is, open up another day where point of control is slightly higher. Price is trading slightly higher. Now we have the point of control that in a trend has begun to come back down. Price consolidated. Point of control again lower. Most of the volume at the low. We're back above VWAP, right? So if we're back above daily VWAP, which is at 18,464. If we're back above there, and then we have funding, and it's gone down still, well, then I'm probably just going to preemptively adjust my position in anticipation that things have cooled down for more of a move up. But until that happens, I'm hedged. And I think that's it, guys, because I'm shot. I need to drink something that'll bring some moisture to my mouth. And yeah, we're about an hour and 37 minutes into this. And okay, so I lost a lot of money when Wi-Fi hit 40,000. So yeah, Frog, did you buy that high? That's rough. Favorite trading related movie? Let's see. Trading Places. No, there's a really good one that I can't think of the name of it now. It's with Gary. Who's the guy in? I feel like Kilgore will know this. 25th Hour or 24th Hour. Hey Kilgore, you remember what was his name? Parker in Saving Private Ryan, the sniper. I feel like his name was Gary in real life. Sniper in Saving Private Ryan. He's in a movie and he's a trader, and can't remember if who knows. Big Short, obviously a great movie. Either way. So guys, I'm gonna give away $100 though. So first person to answer this correctly. Okay, so don't forget that. So let's see. What is, and the first person that answers this, so I'm just gonna say that. So the first person's answer pops up on the screen. What is the proper use of leverage? No, not Boiler Room. 25th Hour, yep. What is the proper use of leverage? People are probably like typing as fast as possible. Nope. You can use it. Nope. You can use it to hedge. That's one of the... Yes, Sigmar. Congratulations. There you go. Sigmar, I know what you're on, right? They got all the answers came in. All right, so fastest one answered. Counterparty risk. Okay. Everyone have a fantastic evening. Sigmar, send me a message on Twitter, and I'll send you that $100 on the to your. I'm glad you all know it after. It's good to see you guys all know it for the most part, and I'll send you $100 in BTC. Until next time, guys, we will be doing this again on Wednesday. I'm not going to be drinking coffee or club soda in combination because my mouth is so dry, can't talk. But yeah, everyone have a fantastic